Until anyone gives me reason not to believe this, I'm just gonna continue thinking this was the only creative contribution George R.R. Martin made to the game.
As much as it pains me to say it, and it does, because look at this character. Elden Ring players take themselves too seriously. I've already bitched about how George R.R. Martin's effects on the world of Elden Ring often get dismissed for exactly no reason. And while I have seen these same sentiments recycled throughout commentary in videos, with people bickering about whether George R.R. Martin plays any vital role in the storyline of Elden Ring. But my favorite has to remain this guy, who came to my rant and was like, oh yeah, he had something to do with Elden Ring? And it's like, yeah, he did, and then was never seen again. That the work of From SoftWare and the writing of George R.R. Martin kinda has less distinctive differences than the content creators who make A Song of Ice and Fire content versus those who make Elden Ring content. This kinda makes sense. I mean, it's not like you're going to watch a playthrough of A Song of Ice and Fire. Well, except for the games, of course. But when it comes to lore hunting specifically, there seems to be a cultural difference. Both are wise enough to see the real-life instances of inspiration for either of these writers. Both are taking minute details and trying to put together a pattern that gives us a sense of what happened in historical fiction. And let's be perfectly clear, all of them are gigantic nerds that I love to watch the long-form content of. But the primary difference here is that while George R.R. Martin takes on newer and fancier projects like working on Elden Ring or giving us a little bit of the hot D, A Song of Ice and Fire fans have been waiting for the next book, The Winds of Winter, for 12 fucking years. So while people are still picking apart the Souls games, you have to think about how many people are picking apart A Song of Ice and Fire theories for this long of time. At some point, theorycraft becomes less about finding out the actual truth the writer intended to make, and becomes more of an exercise in mental stimulus. Both FromSoft and George R.R. Martin share a similarity in that they leave breadcrumbs for us to pick up and do with as we will. But while A Song of Ice and Fire has theories like secret Targaryens that would absolutely change the future of the writing itself, there are also plenty of theories that have to do with being symbolically true rather than actually true in A Song of Ice and Fire. And that's because George likes to use symbolism over and over again. He likes to use the same repetitive cycles over and over again, and that's why you see these almost repeats of characters. But he also does this little thing where he adds little symbologies throughout the text. For instance, a well-founded theory in A Song of Ice and Fire is that whenever a wine called Arbor Gold is given to someone, it is a symbol that the person they are speaking with is lying to them. This is almost explicitly told to us by Littlefinger, who says, "We'll serve them lies and Arbor Gold and they'll drink them both down." And then from there we're given examples where lies and Arbor Gold are hanging out in the same room, until you start to realize that the times you see Arbor Gold and you're not sure if someone's lying, they probably are. So, are you ready for a Song and Ice and Fire style theory in your Elden Ring? An arbor is technically a grove or shadowy garden made out of bushes and trees. I think, however, we all associate arbors with trees specifically. Being arboreal means one lives in a tree. Isn't it so interesting, then, that we are given a golden tree? And what's fun about this is I'm not the first one to tell you that not only is Arbor Gold lies, but the golden tree itself is a lie. There are distinct references to how the tree used to be a physical tree and now is an item of faith. You can see in the details where the old tree was and the illusionary tree begins. And there's so many references to fake grace that you start to wonder if there's any real grace out there. So am I breaking any new ground by saying that Arbor Gold is a lie? No. Am I breaking any new ground by saying the Erd tree is a lie? No. But what if, just what if, your precious Erd tree was written by George R.R. Martin? What? That's not enough for you? You want more? Fine. Arbor wine, of course, comes in both gold and red. In fact, the king of the Arbor was a red wine. But let's look broader at the reach. And maybe you could say I'm reaching, but there's a whole ass place called Golden Grove. It is the seat of House Rowan, whose sigil looks like this, and they hearken their blood back to Rowan Goldtree. Either Rowan or her red-headed sister Floris gave birth to a bastard child, Land the Clever, ancestor 2.
Jamie fucking Lannister.
Oh, and this Lannister too. And all of these families have a common ancestor in Garth Greenhand. Am I saying you have to read novels you don't want to read in order to understand Elden Ring? No.
Oh.
But can we give credit to someone who was actually on the production of this game? You know, as opposed to being the 18th millionth person to mention Berserk.
Drink.